When you talk about kind of big food companies, people tend to have a bit of well, there's a general negative perception around, let's say, their objectives. Now, I think one thing that I've always felt when having this discussion is we forget to realize that these companies started out by actually supplying huge amounts of food at a much more affordable price point to people. And as much as maybe the type of foods aren't right, they do have the infrastructure and scale to supply huge amounts of food to vast numbers of people across the world. And I don't know if, from at least my perspective, I believe that they're necessarily, let's say, evil or have bad intention. They are driven, obviously, by certain objectives that are monetary and financial in nature. But I also think we're starting to see an awareness in the fact that they want to shift away from that. And we're seeing a lot of the kind of larger food players now try and move towards producing foods that are more nutritious, more sustainable. But that is obviously very difficult for these such large companies to just shift in, their operations. And so what kind of actions do they have to take, or are they taking?
Well, you're quite right. I mean, these companies, their business models set up 100 years ago, when the world was very different. And so they're really screeching on their brakes and the rails to try to change their business models to meet the times. They tell me, the business companies, the big companies, they say, we do what the consumer wants, and we work within the law. That's true up to a point. They do work within the law, and they do what consumers want, but of course they can influence consumers hugely.
Sure.
These big companies. You'll find lots of companies that say that. Then you find some companies that are saying, well, that's not good enough. We have to do more than that. And they do it partly because they want to be seen to do the right thing. And more employers are looking for, more and more employees, are looking to work for companies that have a social purpose.
Yeah.
Certainly in Europe and North America, but I think it's going to be a trend worldwide. So they're thinking, okay, I need to recruit the best people. I need to be more socially driven, socially purposeful. Many of their investors, the big investors, are saying, you guys need to step up. We're not going to invest in you unless you do X, Y, and Z, unless you're more ethical, you're more purposeful, you're more sustainable, you're more nutritious. And some of the other companies are thinking to themselves, look, this nutrition, this healthy diet, this drive that we're seeing for healthier foods, it's not going to go away. So we can either be the laggards and kind of sort of be pulled kicking and screaming into this space, or we can be the pioneers and get the halo effects from being at the front. So what do they have to do? They have to have a 10-year plan, basically, which says we're going to increase the percentage of our product lines that meet healthy standards. And there are healthy standards out there. There's something called the Health Star rating, which comes out of Australia, and you can apply that to all kinds of foods. 5 is the top star, 0 is the bottom star. Many of the products these big food companies produce don't make 3.5 stars. In fact, there was a study that showed, I think about a third of their products, only a third, and they sampled thousands of products of the big 20 companies. Only a third of them met a 3.5 out of 5 threshold. So, and there's variation there. Some companies do much better than others. Sure. So there's a very tangible goal for them. How do I get my products to be 50% of my portfolio to be 3.5 or 66%? That means reformulation, less salt, less sugar. But it also means something more profound than that. It means moving into foods that are less processed, more whole grains, more fresh. And that's a big challenge because many consumers don't want that.